They've always been aggressive. Sounds like they'll always be aggressive. Dan Campbell, this organization, they're going to do what they're going to do. Unbelievable. Wow.
So Goff falls down as he's making the handoff.
What an amazing finish to an amazing game between the Lions and Packers. The Lions claiming the NFC North as theirs as they get a victory against their NFC North division rivals, the Green Bay Packers, 34-31. This will move the Lions to 12-1 on the season. The Packers will fall to 9-4. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. What a wild ride of a game this was. The Lions and Packers went back and forth. The depleted defense of the Lions held in there enough to get them a victory. The offense, Jared Goff, the running game, tough at times, but were able to get what they needed to secure this victory. They cap off this game by going for it on 4th down in the wildest of scenarios to kill the rest of the clock, not giving Jordan Love the ball back, and capping this with the game-winning field goal by Jake Bates. Again, Lions winning 34-31. Let's quickly buzz through the team stats. And one of the things I talked about is controlling possession and scoring points. That's the way the Lions would be able to save their depleted defense. And in the end of it, they were able to do that today. They controlled the possession when all said and done. They had 27 first downs to the Green Bay 17. I think the other thing is to look at the total plays. The Lions had 76 total plays of offense versus 45 to the Green Bay Packers. Total yards, Lions advantage 391 to 298. Again, both teams had the same amount of drives at 10. Yards per play varied a little bit with the Packers taking the edge there. Jared Goff had more passing yards, 280 to 199. Again, we'll look at the individual stats here in a moment. Rushing yards, although Green Bay, I thought, controlled the game, rushing the football in the middle portion of the game. The Lions early, and then at the end were able to get enough out of it and ultimately had more yards, 111 to Green Bay's 99. Red zone, both teams pretty efficient when all said and done. Both teams ending up at 4 out of 5 attempts there in the red zone. Both teams had 7 penalties for around the same amount of yards, and both teams had turnovers in this game. But ultimately, the Lions were able to control the possession, 36-06 to the Packers, 23-54. And the Lions showing all the grit and culture that they've established at the end of the game, not giving the ball back to their opponent, putting their foot down, getting the 4th down, even after not being able to convert a 4th down earlier in the game in their own territory. Again, we know Dan Campbell, we know this team. They stayed who they were, and they won this football game. And here's the box score. Let's look at the two quarterbacks. Jordan Love did not pass the football well or often today at all. 12 of 20, 206. 1 touchdown, was sacked only 1 time. A decent rating there, but again, wasn't really asked to do much through the air. I think they realized that the way to get to the Lions was rushing the football, and in the middle of the game, they really had the momentum because that's what they went to. Jared Goff on the other side, 32 of 41, 283, 3 touchdowns, and I thought was a bad interception there, a 109 rating. On the rushing end of things, let's start with the Lions. David Montgomery, 14 carries, 51 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 43 yards. As a whole, the Lions had 111 rushes, but a 3.3-yard average. There were times in this game the Lions could get nothing going interior or exterior rushing the football. I thought Gibbs had a really tough time getting things going at certain points in this game, and that hasn't been the case for the Lions. So that was the Green Bay defense. Let's give them some credit. On the other end of things, rushing, Josh Jacobs, 18 carries for 66 yards. I thought he was able to get things going at times, but obviously the overall number doesn't really shine here, only a 3.7-yard average. Jordan Love was able to get some things going with his legs as the pressure got to him. 4 carries, 23 yards. They had 99 yards total and a 4.1-yard average. Receiving numbers for the Packers, I think Christian Watson was the star there. 4 catches, had the big play. I think it was 58 yards, 59 yards there, 114 total. And he's really their big play wide receiver. He's gotten a little bit more consistent, but in the end, I mean, he was able to get some big play, chunk plays on the Lions here. Dontavian Wicks, a good game, 4 for 49, and then Tucker Kraft had their touchdown reception. I thought he was good, 3 receptions for 41 yards. On the Lions end of things, J-Mo, big day for him, 5 receptions, 80 yards. Sam Laporta, again in the mix. More catches this week, which you like to see, 5 catches for 54. Tim Patrick, what a day for him. You know, we've talked over and over again about how they were going to fill that third wide receiver role. Well, he's the guy. 6 catches, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns today. Really big. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5 for 43, ended the game with that big reception at the end. That seems to be routine for the Lions. David Montgomery in the mix and Jameer in the mix because they couldn't really get some things going on the ground. So David had 5, Jameer had 6, both with around 30 yards. Again, I thought the Lions offense sputtered at times, but really were able to get the plays when they needed it to cap this thing off. Defensively for the Packers, again, I thought they were good at times. Big tackler for the day, Isaiah McDuffie. He really was all over the field. 15 tackles today. That's a lot of tackles. Give him credit. Quay Walker, say what you want about a head case. He had 10 tackles today. Nixon, 10 tackles. I thought he was good. Kenny Clark had the tackle for loss. Colby Wooden, Rashawn Gary as well, flashed at times. On the Lions side of things, of course, Jack Campbell led the way. He's really only their true linebacker that's still left on the depth chart, so he led the way in tackles, and he had a quarterback hit. Muhammad, again, flashed at times, 4 tackles, had a quarterback hit as well. Brian Branch did his thing. We're going to have to monitor sort of his dinged-up body towards the end. I think he has a calf injury going on, but he also had a tackle for loss. Darius Smith, he had the sack. I think that was in the first drive of the game, but they weren't able to get to the quarterback after that. Jordan Love moving in the pocket well, was able to make some things happen with his legs, but pressure was there. They had a lot of quarterback hits. If you look at this number, they had 7 quarterback hits. They really had to manufacture it based on the fact that they didn't have any depth on the defensive line. And special teams, punters, not a ton to talk about there. Both did their jobs fine. On the Green Bay side of things, Brandon McManus, perfect on the day with his field goal of 32. Jake Bates hit both of his, and of course the game-winning field goal to cap this thing 34-31. It's good to see him make both of his tries today, coming off the fact that he missed his first NFL career kick last week. So in a pressure situation, he was kind of able to get back to form. So definitely good to see for Jake Bates and the Lions special teams. My Week 14 Thursday Night Football game balls for Lions and Packers. On the Lions defensive side of things, I'm going to start with Carlton Davis. And, I think that the secondary was the thing to sort of hold this together. They were gashed once, but ultimately I think they made plays, and Carlton Davis really led the way. He had a pass defended. He also had a forced fumble, and he was all over the place. He was making tackles. He helped in the run game, so I think he was good today. He certainly deserves a game ball. I thought Jack Campbell and Zadarius Smith were good. Jack Campbell led the team in tackles, so I will also give him a game ball for this Week 14 performance. Brian Branch, all over the place. I think he's also playing through a calf injury. Again, he's a jack of all trades. He helps in the run, helps in the back end, really does it all for you. But I think on the defensive side, the game ball needs to go to Pat O'Connor the most. I mean, they talk about an unsung hero type of game for him. You needed to have guys step up, and there were several of them today, but I think he needs to be shouted out more than most. He was getting pressure. He was getting off the ball. Even to the point where he's getting the crowd into the mix after making plays, just, kind of swinging momentum in the Lions' favor and making plays when they had to make them. I mean, his stat sheet isn't flashy, but they pointed him out several times on the broadcast for being able to get in and make a difference on the interior when they really needed somebody in the absence of DJ Reader, and Aleem McNeil went out for a portion of this game as well. And on the offensive side, let's start with Jared Goff. He certainly deserves a game ball, and you could argue he was the game MVP, but I'm going to mix it up this week. Again, 32 completions today, 283, 3 touchdowns, and it was the passing attack that really carried the way today, in my opinion. So I thought he was good and certainly deserves a game ball. Sam Laporta, again, I think getting him more involved is such a positive thing for the Lions. He didn't get in the end zone today, but he had 5 receptions. He made a great diving catch there. And you can see the confidence building, and seeing him round into form later in the season is a good sign for everybody involved. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and again, he wasn't flashy, he didn't get in the end zone. Some of the stats are even falling off a little bit, but he is such a hardworking player, and to me, you can tell he's playing through a back injury or something going on there. But he's willing to get it in any way, shape, or form. Running the football, catching the football, blocking, motioning across patterns. You can use him anywhere and everywhere. He's such a great leader and captain. But I think the biggest game ball and the game MVP for Week 14 in Lions and Packers was Tim Patrick. When you needed to have some secondary players step in, and he's not an off-the-street player. He's been with the organization from the start of the season, and we've talked over and over and over again about the Lions' search for an X receiver or the third option. Well, there's your guy. He had 2 scores today. He was there for Jared Goff anytime he needed it, and he was really good. 6 receptions, 43 yards, and the 2 scores. So Tim Patrick gets my MVP for the Thursday Night Football matchup against the Packers. This was a great NFC North Division matchup. The Packers and Lions put on a show on Thursday Night Football. What a great Thursday night matchup. And now the Lions have really set themselves up for seeding in the NFC. They really needed to have this game. They now have a 10-day layover, which they desperately need some time off to get some of these injuries taken care of. They have a ton of guys still on IR, and that's really not going to change next week. But they're going now into a showdown with one of the best teams in the AFC, the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Lions will remain at home next week in Week 15. And again, they get 10 days rest, so they're going to take advantage of that. And it should be a fantastic Week 15 matchup. So be on the lookout for my game preview for that. We'll do the grades and highlights this week for this matchup. What a fun game. I really appreciate you guys coming along. If you dig what we're doing here, make sure to hit that like button. I'd love it if you consider subscribing to the channel. We're heading to 3,000 now, thanks to you guys. And if you hit the notify bell, you won't miss any future videos. There's a membership option available as well. I just got off the live game play-by-play. That's where I do my ladder and a ton of other fun stuff, but there's always free content here for you all the time. More than anything else, take care of yourself and your mental health. That is more important than anything else. And I just appreciate your time so much. Thank you guys for it. Go Lions.